The whole world is a narrow bridge, but the most important thing is to not be afraid. Kol ha'olam kulo
Gesher tsar me'od, Gesher tsar me'od, Gesher tsar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo Gesher tsar me'od, Gesher tsar me'od. V'ha'ikar lo לפחד כלל, והעיקר לא לפחד כלל. לי, 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 יא לי, 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 גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. והעיקר לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר לא לפחד
In their 20s, bright-eyed Zionist Amir Tibon married Miri Bernovsky, poolside at Kibbutz Nir Oz, overlooking fields where Jewish farmers raised crops for Israeli cities. The journalist and social worker established their home and built a family. Their 2 young daughters, 3.5 and 1.5, loved the freedom of the kibbutz. They could walk to their kindergarten with limited supervision. They would visit with the cows and buy ice creams in the little store on credit. Nir Oz is the closest community to the Gaza Strip. A mere 800 meters separate the kibbutz border from the city of Shujaiya. On the morning of October 7th, Amir and Miri awoke to the whistle of rockets overhead. They follow their usual procedure, because on the border, this happens often. Go to the safe room, the girl's bedroom, close and lock the metal door and window, and wait for a lull to drive away to safety. On Saturday morning, Simchat Torah, there was to be no lull. The rocket fire was followed by bullets, first in the fields, then on the road, all the time getting closer, then shooting into their home.
On Saturday morning, Noam and Gali Tivon awoke in their Tel Aviv home to a phone call from their son, Amir. Hamas terrorists had infiltrated their kibbutz. Their son, daughter-in-law, and 2 young granddaughters were locked in their safe room. But for how much longer would they be safe? Noam said the 2 words that years of training and parenting had taught him, Ani ba, I am on my way. A retired major general, Noam grabbed his gun and along with Gali, jumped in their car and began to make their way. As they drove, Noam and Gali encountered a group of barefoot young men and women running away from what would turn out to be Israel's largest single terror attack ever, the Nova Music Festival. They placed them in their car and brought them to safety. Gali remained with these victims of terror. Ahead of them was a military jeep of Special Forces soldiers being ambushed by Hamas. The retired general, along with a soldier whom he had picked up, joined in the firefight, killing the terrorists. Noam brought the wounded soldiers to Gali to administer first aid and evacuate them to receive life-saving medical care. Without a car now, Noam had no way to get to Nahal Oz to free his family. Passing nearby was Yisrael Ziv, a fellow retired general. Noam waved down his former brother in arms, and together they continued on to Nahal Oz to liberate the kibbutz. The Hamas firefighters terrorized the residents of Kibbutz Nahal Oz for hours. Some were killed and others kidnapped back to Gaza. Homes and communal buildings were utterly destroyed. And in the safe room,
Amir, Miri, and their 2 young daughters were waiting in silence. A 3.5-year-old and 1.5-year-old placed their faith in their parents and understood the demands placed on them. For 10 hours, they were silent. Without food or bathrooms, they remained in the pitch-black room, unable even to see their parents, in silence.
Arriving at Nahal Oz, the 2 retired generals joined with Special Forces who recently arrived at the kibbutz. They went house to house on their way to their family's home, engaging in gun battles with terrorists and cleaning out each home, setting inhabitants free. Finally, Noam arrived at Amir's home. He banged on the exterior metal barricade and said, Noam, ze Abba higati. Noam, it's me, I am here.
Looking up with relief and tears in their eyes, 3.5-year-old Gaia shouted out, Yadati shesaba tatzil otanu. I knew grandfather would save us.
שיר למעלות, אשא עיניי להרים, מאין יבוא עזרי, עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ, אל ייתן לנחות רגליך, ינום שומריך, הנה לא ינום ולא יישן, שומר ישראל, אדוני שומריך, אדוני צילך, על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה, וירח בלילה, אדוני ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם. Join me everyone. La 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 la. ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך, אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך, מעתה ועד עולם. עוד יש מפרש לבן באופק מול ענן שחור כבד,
כל שנבקש לו יהי.
ואם בחלונות הערב אור נרות החג רועד,
כל שנבקש לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי.
בתוך שכונה קטנה וצרת, בית קט עם גג אדום,
כל שנבקש, לו יהי.
זה סוף הקיץ, סוף הדרך, תן להם לשוב הלום.
כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו יהי. לו יהי, לו יהי, אנא, לו יהי, כל שנבקש, לו
Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our mothers and fathers, send complete rescue and full redemption to those held captive by the enemy. Strengthen their spirits and bring them our prayers that they be protected from all harm. Grant strength and wisdom to the Israel Defense Forces that they may secure freedom for the captives without more loss of life. Rock and Redeemer of Israel, strengthen and deliver all who stand guard, protecting their homes, safeguard and save them from trouble and distress. Bless their actions, hear their prayers and ours, and deliver them. Send your mercy to the mothers and fathers and children sitting in shelters. May it be your will to remember them, to take notice of them, to meet them with compassion, for we trust in you. Return those kidnapped safe and sound to their homes without hate or the spilling of more innocent blood. Strengthen those who protect the Holy Land, soldiers and civilians alike. As the psalmist says, "They shall call upon me, and I will answer them. I will be with them in distress. I will rescue them and honor them."
אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תדבק לשוני לחיקי, אם לא אזכרכי, אם לא יעלה את ירושלים על ראש שמחתי, אם לא אזכרכי, אם לא יעלה את ירושלים על ראש שמחתי. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תדבק לשוני לחיקי, אם לא אזכרכי, אם לא יעלה את ירושלים על ראש שמחתי, אם לא אזכרכי, אם לא יעלה את ירושלים על ראש שמחתי.
Ayakif, Deputy Manhattan Borough President, Acting Israel Consul General Tzach, rabbinic colleagues of all movements, fellow New Yorkers, we come together this evening to mourn, to gain comfort from each other, and to express unwavering solidarity with Israel. There will come a time when we will investigate what went wrong, and it is already clear that there have been colossal failures on many levels, but that time is not now. Now we unite. Now we support our Israeli kin. Now we mobilize. Now we act to ensure victory. The stakes are very high. If this war ends short of a Hamas defeat, it will invite more war, more terror, more bloodshed for years to come. It is a depressing fact of history and human nature that peace is purchased through strength and deterrence, especially in the Middle East, where the weak are preyed upon and devoured. This is a sad, devastating week for the Jewish people and all decent people who value life. We lost more Jews in one day this week, the Shabbat of Simchat Torah, than at any other time since the Holocaust. On no day from the end of World War II have more Jews been murdered. Jewish history will remember this week forever. What was will no longer be. It is a week of funerals. Hundreds of heart-wrenching funerals of beautiful people. Farmers, teachers, entrepreneurs, mothers, fathers, grandparents, children, babies. dozens of IDF soldiers, police, and other security personnel who laid down their lives in defense of their fellow citizens. And we know there will be many more funerals in the weeks to come. We saw in vivid reality what a pogrom looks like. Mass mayhem and murder. Make no mistake, Israeli civilians were massacred because they were Jews. Anti-Israel protesters make no attempt to hide it. Gas the Jews, they shrieked in front of the Sydney Opera House. And therefore, this is a crisis that concerns every one of us. It affects our children. It affects our future. It threatens every Jew worldwide and every decent person. The question for us is, do we want to stand up or cower? Do we want to participate or slink away? It is excruciating for me to think of the horror. It shakes me to my core. There are many moments where I want to look away. But we need to force ourselves to not look away. We need to fully absorb what is the nature of the human creature, what we are capable of doing to each other. And as Jews, we need to be honest about our enemies. To all of our non-Jewish friends, do you know what it does to a Jew to see once again, 80 years later, Jews massacred in their homes, Jews taken hostage, Jews dragged onto the streets, beaten and raped, mutilated corpses paraded in public squares while delirious crowds holler their crazed approval? There is something rotten in the culture of these streets, putrid and rancid to the core. They massacred whole families. They slaughtered babies. They raped young women as the bodies of their dead friends lay all around them. They took men and women and children, mothers and fathers and infants hostage into the bowels of Gaza, among them an elderly grandmother who is a Holocaust survivor. And they ask why there is no peace. Keep a clear moral compass. This is not freedom fighting. This is not resistance. It is war crimes and crimes against humanity. It is rank, anti-Semitic, evil, wicked, villainous, abominable, and heinous barbarism. And anyone in the Middle East, the United States and the West, in the halls of Congress, or in the media, or in schools, or university campuses, anyone who whitewashes, defends, apologizes for, or justifies this repugnant degeneracy is themselves morally responsible and morally compromised. Any international agency or NGO that sends money to these criminals is morally culpable. You are funding a murderous ideology bent on killing Jews, and sooner or later it will rebound on you. You'll see it on the streets of Europe and throughout the West. They can't even bring themselves to say the right words. They call it militancy, or grievance, or violence, or some other morally empty phrase. And soon, whataboutism and words like disproportionate will begin to creep into the discussion. How's this for proportionality? Don't attack Israel and Israel won't attack you. Any educator, any head of school or university whose message to students and parents is to maintain an environment of mutual respect and acceptance for all, surely a worthy message, but cannot actually bring themselves to call out terrorism, name the terrorists, and condemn their inhuman, atrocious brutality, fails the most important test of pedagogical, civil, and moral leadership. They beheaded adults. They beheaded children. They beheaded infants, babies. Why are the heads of schools? Why are university presidents silent? And if they do release statements, why can't they call out terrorism, name the terrorists, and condemn their inhuman and atrocious brutality? Any religious leader who prays for peace, but cannot call out terrorism, name the terrorists, and condemn their inhuman and atrocious brutality, practices faux morality, cowardly, fake, evasive, armchair ethics, masquerading as spiritual leadership. It is not moral courage. It is moral preening. All of us can make a difference. Do not stand idly by while your brethren bleed. We've prepared a list of things for you to do now and in the future. On your way out, pick up the sheet and resolve to act. If there is an interest in a solidarity mission to Israel as soon as the fighting ends, I will lead it. Let us know if you may be interested. We fully intend to travel as a community together in March as planned, and consider joining that trip. I want to turn specifically to young people and their parents and their teachers. Have some Jewish pride. Safeguard Jewish dignity. It's normative on university campuses to view Israel as colonialist and Jews as white oppressors. Zionism has become a curse word, another term for racist. It's just assumed in so many university quads that Zionists are evil. The deterioration on college campuses is so dramatic that this culture is seeping back into high schools and even middle schools. And let's be honest, it's happening in our space, in the heart of intellectual liberalism. Counter them. Don't be passive. March, demonstrate, protest, stand up for what is right. In besmirching Israel, they besmirch you and all of us and all good people. They corrupt liberalism and distort liberal values. Faculty members in middle schools, high schools, and universities, help your students. Help them to counter radical teachers, professors, and lecturers. Alumni of universities, respond with vigor. Parents of high school and middle school students, hold administrators accountable. Hold teachers accountable. Hold politicians accountable. Hold journalists accountable. There is so much more at stake than even Israel. It is our entire Western values system. Dear friends, there will be bitter days ahead, filled with heartache and pain for our people, and sadly, for those in the Palestinian community, and there are many who want nothing to do with Hamas. I'm filled with dread for the fate of the 150 hostages held in Gaza. Hamas threatens to execute them one by one, ISIS style, and show the beheadings on social media. But Israel was established to empower Jews with self-determination. After 2,000 years, a persecuted, abandoned, decimated people finally rose up and said, enough! The days of murdering and massacring Jews with impunity are over. We will protect ourselves. We will defend our people. We will be masters of our own fate. There have been so many acts of military valor in Israel as to make our chests pound with awe. There have been so many acts of civic courage. Israeli civilians mobilizing to help, give blood, shelter, feed, and shower, and with love, Israeli families devastated by the attacks, as to cause our hearts to swell with pride. Rest assured, they will not break us. There is no force in the world more powerful than the united spirit of the Jewish people in urgent times. It broke the will of Pharaoh, of history's tyrants who couldn't fathom how Jews were still around. And it will eventually break the will of Israel's contemporary enemies. Until that day, there is no alternative but to fight back. I wish with all my heart it were not so. Israel will prevail. The Jewish people lives. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael 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 Chai. Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu, Od Avinu, Od Avinu Chai, Od Avinu Chai,
It's my pleasure now to introduce my friend and the new acting Israeli Consul General, Tzach Sar, to deliver a few words. I apologize for him in advance. He is rushing to another event, so please come and say a few words.
So, my homeland is under attack. It's in a war. It's under a brutal attack. And my homeland is the greatest ally of your homeland in the Middle East and beyond. And this land is also a spiritual anchor of a vast Jewish community in the United States. President Biden put into words the pain every Israeli is feeling, and the lens through which every normal human being must view this devastation. He said a terrorist organization, Hamas, a group whose stated purpose for being is to kill Jews, has committed an act of sheer evil. Hamas unleashed pure, unadulterated evil on the world. The president further assured that the U.S. military will ensure that Israeli defense remains equipped and prepared to counter subsequent terror threats and to bring those responsible for such terrible act to justice. This past Saturday, the Hamas massacre took the lives of over 1,000 souls. The harrowing images emerging from the region bear testament to the magnitude of this horror. Children have been slain, women violated and taken to Gaza. Entire families were wiped out. Currently, more than 100 individuals, possibly even upwards of 200, are held captive by Hamas. The victims comprise Jews and non-Jews, Israelis, Americans, and other nationalities alike. In their acts, they strip the victims of their dignity and humanity. This massacre is a contemporary pogrom, with Hamas displaying an evil that even surpasses notorious evil ISIS. Make no mistake, these terrible acts were not solely against Israel. They are affronts to America, to the values of the free world, and indeed all of humanity. Our resolve to respond stems from a commitment to ensure that such acts of terror are never repeated. Never. On the ground, Israel has asserted control over regions adjoining Gaza, although terrorists remain and infiltration attempts continue. The daily assault of rockets and missiles on Israeli civilian areas does not stop. Thus, we are determined to eliminate Hamas capabilities and their motivation for future attacks. Iran, notorious for destabilizing the Middle East, has empowered Hamas through funding, weaponry, terror, training, and strategic guidance. They've supported these terror attacks. Their involvement of Tehran is evident as they stoke tension in both Lebanon and Syria, anticipating a wider confrontation with Israel. Already threats from the north materialize as rocket salvos and terrorist infiltrations. The repercussions for Lebanon and Syria, should they intensify conflict from the north, are clear, a sentiment firmly expressed by President Biden. Today, we've established an emergency unity government and a war cabinet. Despite internal disagreements, the Israeli populace stands unified and resilient. We also extend our heartfelt gratitude to the American Jewish community for their unwavering support during these challenging times. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to you. The surge of support for Israel in America is deeply heartwarming. We're profoundly grateful to President Biden, governors, federal legislators, mayors, and other bipartisan officials. While there are vocal factions advocating terror and the harm of innocents, their noise is drowned by the enormous wave of support for Israel. Yet the rise in anti-Semitic incidents and attacks on Jews, intensified by the ongoing conflict, is deeply concerning. We must stand vigilant and confront this menace head-on. We aim to return the support we've garnered in adversity, even as we transition to triumph. We don't just have the right to protect ourselves. We have the duty to do so. We thank America. We thank you for standing with Israel and its people. Thank you.
Please rise.
אם קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמות יקירנו שלחו יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם אדוני ונחלתה וינוחו בשלום על משכבה ונאמר אמן.
Merciful God, God Most High, let there be perfect rest for the souls of our loved ones who have gone into eternity. May they find shelter in your presence among the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold them close to you forever. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May they find a home in you, and may they rest in peace. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
Avinu Shebashamayim, Sur Yisrael v'go'alo, Barech et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Smichat Gu'ulatenu. Avinu, you are high above all nations, states, and people. Rock of Israel, the one who has saved us and preserved us in life, bless the state of Israel, first flowering of our redemption. Be her loving shield, a shelter of lasting peace. Guide her leaders and advisors by your light of truth. Instruct them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who build and protect our Holy Land. Deliver them from danger. Crown their efforts with success. Grant peace to the land, lasting joy to all of her people. And together we say, Amen.
Amen.
On your way out this evening, you can grab a piece of paper, take action. We are here, we will stay strong, and we will see you for Shabbat. Am Yisrael Chai.
Am Yisrael.